Good morning, everyone. As promised, today we are starting a new unit. It is a life science unit, and it is titled, I Look Like My Parents. So, before we get into this lesson, I want you to think about that. Think about your mom or your dad. Think about how they look, and think about if you look similar in any way. Maybe you have the same colored eyes, maybe you have the same colored hair, maybe you're both tall or short. All right, so think about that, and we are going to get into our vocabulary that we'll be focusing on for this entire unit. All right, our first vocabulary word is alike. See if you can say alike out loud or touch alike. If you have something to type with or write with, you can write the word alike. Alike means the same in some way. Okay, so as we can see in these pictures, these two tigers are the same in a lot of ways. They're both orange, they both have stripes, they both have big paws with claws, they both have whiskers. All right, so in many ways they are alike. Right? And this mother and daughter have a lot of ways that they are also alike. So just what we can see from this picture, they both have dark brown hair, they both have brown eyes, and they have similar smiles. Okay, our next vocabulary word is different. See if you can say or write or touch different. Different. Different means not the same. All right, so different is the opposite of alike. Here we have a dog and a cat, and they are different. Okay, they're different colors, they're different species, their ears look different, they behave differently. Here we have a cactus and a flower, and they are very different, even though they're both plants. They're different colors. If you were to touch them, they would feel different. They're different shapes, and they have different needs. Okay, our next word is animal. Say animal out loud, or write it, or type it, or touch it. Animal. Of course, we know a lot about animals. And an animal is a living thing that is not a person or a plant. So here we have a dog. A dog is an animal. A cat is an animal. And this alligator is also an animal. I'm sure you know lots of other examples of animals. Our next vocabulary word is plant. Say plant out loud, or write it, or type it, or touch it. Plant. A plant is a living thing that is not a person or an animal. Okay, so of course we see plants all over the place. This palm tree is a plant. And this tomato plant is also a plant. If you go outside or look out your window, I'm sure you'll see many plants in the form of trees, flowers, weeds, grass. Okay, plants are everywhere. Our next vocabulary word is cell. See if you can say the word cell out loud, or write it, type it, or touch it. Cell. A cell is the smallest part of every living thing. So, animals, plants, humans, all those living things are made up of tiny, tiny cells. We can't see cells with our eyes, okay, but they're too tiny for us to see, but we know this boy, for instance, his skin is all made up of cells, his lips, his eyes, his nose, every part of him is made up of tiny, tiny cells. Here's a model of a cell. So you are made up of many, many cells. Our next vocabulary word is family. See if you can say family out loud, or write it, type it, or touch it. A family is a group of people, plants, or animals that are related to each other. So here's a human family. Your family consists of maybe your mom or your dad, your stepmom, your stepdad, your brothers or sisters, your grandma and grandpa, your aunt and uncle. That's your family. And plants and animals also have families. So here's a picture of a bear family. Right, our next vocabulary word is parent. Of course, our parent is our mother or father. So here's a father or a dad. And this sand crane is the parent or the mom to this baby sand crane. See if you can say parent out loud, or write it, type it, or touch it. Parent. Okay, our next vocabulary word is trait. Trait. See if you can say trait out loud, or write it, type it, or touch it. A trait is, traits are characteristics that each person has that makes them different, like being tall or short, or having blue or brown eyes. Okay, so this woman has brown eyes. She also has brown hair. Those are both traits that she has. This baby has blue eyes and red hair. Those are also her traits. We get traits from our parents. Okay, our next vocabulary word is DNA. See if you can say DNA out loud, or write it, type it, or touch it. DNA. DNA is a set of directions in each cell that tells how a living thing will look and act. So DNA is inside those tiny, tiny cells that we are all made up of. And we get that DNA from our parents. We also, of course, can't see DNA with just our eyes. but with a magnifying glass, this is what DNA looks like. All right, and gene. We all have genes. See if you can say gene out loud, or write it, type it, or touch it. Genes are parts of DNA with sets of directions grouped together. So we have lots of DNA, and our DNA is broken up into genes. So we have a specific gene that will determine if we will be tall, like this guy, or short, like this man. So our genes determine our traits, such as what we will look like, the color of our eyes, color of our skin, color of our hair. Those are determined by our genes, and we get that from our parents. All right, good job, everyone. That is the vocabulary for this unit. So we will be learning more and more about those things in the coming books and chapters.